The Reverend Everald Galbraith invites you to pause and reflect. Pause and reflect with me on 1 Peter chapter 2, verse 23, which reads, "When they hurled their insults at him, he did not retaliate. When he suffered, he made no threats. Instead, he entrusted himself to him who judges justly." End of quote. The theme, Christ-like righteousness. Have you ever struck back physically, emotionally, or verbally at someone who wronged or hurt you? Well, I have. I have vivid recollections of a day at Mount Ward Primary School way back in the 1970s when my schoolmate and neighbor called me a much disliked nickname. No, I will not tell you what it is. However, I will tell you that without hesitation and with all the might I could muster, I flung my right fist at him. It struck him on the side of his head. The result was blood and a march to Ramble Health Center with teacher behind us. You see, the instinctive human reaction when we are victimized, insulted abusively, treated unjustly, or provoked is to strike back, to get even, or to go one step beyond getting even. Am I not correct? Do you realize that ardent followers of Jesus face similar temptations? As a matter of fact, Jesus could easily have had similar responses when he was dealt with wrongfully. Yet Peter tells us that even as he suffered extreme hurt and pain while being completely innocent, he refused to strike back. He refused to strike back at the insults of the Jewish religious leaders. He refused to strike back at the injustice of the political establishment. He refused to strike back at the brutality of the Roman security forces. And he refused to strike back at those hurling taunts at him as he hung on the cross. According to Eugene Pattison, quote, "They called him every name in the book, and he said nothing back. He suffered in silence, content to let God set things right." From the Message. Jesus suffered throughout his life and on the cross for our sake. Think of it. The righteousness and integrity that was intrinsic in Jesus exposed the unpleasantness, ugliness, and wickedness that is innate in sinful human beings. And so, Jesus was despised and rejected by men and women. A man of sorrows, who suffered and died at their hands. While being reviled, Jesus did not retaliate. While suffering, he uttered no threats. He did not reciprocate, but kept entrusting himself to the one who knows and judges all hearts. Of significance is the fact that Jesus suffered for the sake of sinful humanity and to make the world a better place. Peter told the believers to willingly submit themselves to every form of human authority, such as emperors and governors, kings, and even to harsh slave masters, verses 13 to 18, for the sake of Christ. He said it is commendable before God when Christ's followers suffer for doing good and endure affliction, verse 20. That is the example that Peter calls all followers of Jesus to emulate. Do what is good and right, even if we suffer for it. Christians, God's set-apart people, are required to live and work with, for, and amongst persons who are irreligious, unbelieving, and even anti-Christian. Living a life of Christ-like righteousness exposes us to being abused, derided, despised, imprisoned, and sometimes even killed. The reality is that however well-intentioned and well-motivated we are, our weakened, fickle, and fallen nature is incapable of achieving life of Christ-like righteousness in our own natural strength. For this Christ-likeness is to be manifested in our lives, old fallen nature needs to die, needs to be nailed to the cross. The good news is that God will enable that to happen if we sincerely look to Jesus. I invite you then to look to Jesus and take a little time, slow down and look around you. Maybe there is the need to take a stand for what is right and pleasing to God. Maybe there is a person whose voice is not being heard and you need to speak for him or her. Or maybe there is someone who needs a helping hand. Maybe there is someone, a child, a man or a woman who is being abused and needs an intervention. It can be risky, but do not allow the danger to impede you from doing or saying what is right. Do not evade your responsibilities or waste your opportunities to do right and to do good by passing by on the other side, pretending you did not see, did not hear, or does not know. Be that person that God expects us to be and leave the rest to God. And so, I invite you to think, is there a situation needing your attention? What will you do? What will you do? In your prayer, I invite you to say a prayer for those persons who care for victims of injustice. Say a prayer for those suffering because they agitate for the just treatment of the marginalized. Say a prayer for those who agitate for the protection of the environment, who agitate for the children and vulnerable amongst us. Say a prayer for those who are willing to risk their lives for the good of others. And as you do so, may God bless you. May God guide you. May God protect you. So as you pause, think, reflect, and act, God be with you, now and always. Amen.